nyay, nor the process, nor the constitutional spirit. Nothing of this was respected. And each time the Congress brazenly, only to help the family, the dynasty, kept amending the constitution, and this is how far they went, even if it affects any particular women who desperately needed the benefit. Sir, I'll come again to one more, the emergency, where that one important touchstone, the process, was completely violated. On 18th December 1976, the then President gave his assent to the Constitution 42nd Amendment Act. During the emergency, when the term of the Lok Sabha was extended without proper justification, they invoked the law to say Parliament has to be in session for 5 years, but we needed to have one extra year, so the act was extended. The Lok Sabha term was extended. And in that extended term, when the entire opposition was put to jail, there was nobody there, and entire opposition was in the jail, then comes constitutional amendment, sir. The process, the touchstone that we need to have, is the process valid? That was a total invalidated process, and therefore I would think this is a blatant abuse which the country majorly agreed on. Sir, only 5 members opposed the bill in the Lok Sabha. There was none in the opposition in the Rajya Sabha to oppose it. Imagine, constitutional amendment being passed, entire opposition in the jail. In the Lok Sabha, only 5 people are there to oppose it, even some coming from their own party. And at the Rajya Sabha, no opposition. But constitutional amendment, changing the preamble itself, happens. The alteration of the preamble to include socialist and secular highlights the disrespect and disregard the Congress has for constitutional processes, principles, and institutions. Sir, the amendments were not about strengthening democracy, sir, but protecting those in power. Again, the process is used for strengthening the family. Sir, Baba Saheb Ambedkar had argued, and I quote, talking about whether the word secularism, talking about whether the word socialism should be included in the Constitution. Baba Saheb Ambedkar argued, I quote, I do not see, therefore, why the Constitution should tie down the people to live in a particular form and not leave it to the people themselves to decide it for themselves, unquote. And therefore, in the original Constitution, the word socialism was not there, as much as the word secularism. So 21 MPs, all opposition, belonging to all opposition parties, were held in jail. Manya Advani ji, Manya Atal ji were all in jail under Preventive Detention Law, Maintenance of Internal Security Act 1971, the infamous MISA. And I know of political leaders who have chosen to have their children named after MISA to remember those black days. And now they wouldn't even mind having alliance with them. Sir, all these together turned the Constitution into a qualitatively different text from what it was originally as adopted in November 26. So I'd just like to come here for one observation. Opposition member, respected Jairam Rameshji, refers to the work of Granville Austin with a left-handed compliment saying, we read it, but does anyone in the ruling party read it? Sir, and he says, masterly book. Yes, masterly book. He tells the full story of the amendment carried out till 1980. So I'm starting from 51, and I'm also going on that journey, talking about amendments, their purpose, their intent, their process. Now, since Jairam Ramesh has mentioned it, and there is some Granville Austin's line that I like to quote back to him. Sir, emergency, 42nd Amendment Act, the landmark Keshwananda Bharati case of 1973, the basic structure, doctrine, whole lot of things. In the words of that masterly Granville Austin, I quote, sir, the important constitutional development of the emergency, other than its very imposition, was the enactment of the 42nd Amendment. Austin says this. And he further says, coming in November 1976, the amendment demonstrates the progression of the Prime Minister, referring to Mrs. Indira Gandhi. I really quote again. Coming in November 76, the amendment demonstrates the progression of the Prime Minister and her government from having near absolute power without a coherent program, other than the protection of her prime ministry to power expressed through fundamental constitutional change. So, unquote. Exactly the point that I'm putting forth about emergency, the way in which 42nd Amendment passed through, how opposition leaders were all in the jail, not one person to oppose in the Rajya Sabha, in the Lok Sabha, just 5 of them speaking against it. When Granville Austin has said this, poor Jairam Ramesh did not mind quoting something else from Austin, but ignored this. Point proves. So the selective.
प्लीज आप बैठ जाएं। माननीय शक्ति सिंह जी आप जगह लें प्लीज। माननीय जयराम रमेश जी।
I have Granville Austin in my hands right now, and the same Granville Austin writes that the 44th Amendment was passed by the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha to override the 42nd Amendment, large parts of the 42nd Amendment. And who voted on the 7th of December 1978 to repeal parts of the 42nd Amendment? It was Indira Gandhi herself. So Indira Gandhi in 1978 voted to repeal the parts of the 42nd Amendment which she realized had resulted in her electoral loss. So it's not, don't read selectively.
Thank you, Jairam Ramesh. Please. Now, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, sir.
Please.
Thank you, sir.
You have responded. You have responded, please. 1970. Please. Honorable Jairam Ramesh, please be brief. माननीय जयराम रमेश जी प्लीज बी ब्रीफ।
सर, मैं आदरणीय रमेश जी का ज्ञानवर्धन करना चाहता हूं कि 1978 में मोरारजी देसाई वाज द प्राइम मिनिस्टर। जनता पार्टी की सरकार थी और जनता पार्टी की सरकार ने 42nd अमेंडमेंट को 44th अमेंडमेंट से हटाने का का काम किया और आपको जनता ने हरा दिया था। श्रीमती इंदिरा गांधी was no more the prime minister, and when she was the prime minister, तब उन्होंने हर तरीके से प्रजातंत्र को रोकने का, गला घोटने का काम श्रीमती गांधी ने किया था।
माननीय जयराम जी प्लीज।
मुझे सुना नहीं, मुझे ठीक तरीके से उन्होंने सुना नहीं। मैंने कहा था 44th अमेंडमेंट आया 1978 में, मोरारजी भाई प्रधानमंत्री थे और 6 दिसंबर 1978 में लोकसभा में इंदिरा गांधी जी ने वोट किया 44th अमेंडमेंट के लिए। यही तो मैंने कहा था।
ऑनरेबल मिनिस्टर प्लीज। माननीय मंत्री जी, सिर्फ माननीय मंत्री जी की बात रिकॉर्ड पे जाएगी प्लीज।
Thank you very much, sir, and I fully accept Jairam Ramesh's observation. Obviously, Leader of the House was right in saying Morarji Desai was the Prime Minister, and during the voting, Srimati Indira Gandhi had said that, and she supported the changes in the changes to the 42nd Amendment. Very well. But the idea that I have right from the beginning said is, Der Aya Durustaya is what the Hindi language gives me, but the fact remains, and I'm glad that she changed her mind. It was such an improper thing to do during an extended tenure of the parliament, and an improper thing, even worse, to do, putting the opposition and then seeking a constitutional amendment. So at least in 78, after a massive defeat, which of course later she overturned and won the election and came, that's a process, that's the electoral process. That is the electoral process, and electoral process does teach lessons. Does teach lessons, and Srimati Indira Gandhi learned that lesson. I want to say this to the Congress party today. Srimati Indira Gandhi learned the lesson, and I'm happy Jairam Ramesh says that she stood up to support the amendment Morarji Desai and his government was bringing. But today's Congress, sir, I'll come to that. Sir, today's Congress is the matter that we need to talk about. But before that, sir, the eminent person who became speaker later on, Sri Mavlankarji, also said some things. These are words which we need to have a recall, because it's important for all of us sitting in this august house to know what the opinions were, and then take the next 75, next 200, next 500 years forward of this constitution. Mavlankar says, sir, and I quote, "This particular bill brings an almost qualitative change in our constitution structure. The tragedy of the situation is that by this amendment bill, the citizens, the courts of law, the states, the president, and indeed even this House of Parliament are all sought to be denigrated, and only the union executive is sought to be made to thrive, grab, and aggrandize," unquote. So if that one amendment has brought in such thinking individual to say such harsh words, it needs retrospection. We should never repeat such, great follies, in which we took the Constitution for granted. People rejected such people, and lessons have to be learned. So, sir, I'd like to again say, when I soon would want to speak about what's the attitude of Congress today, I'd like to come to one line of an eminent person which was said during the 42nd Amendment debate. He was no less than later on Chief Minister, or prior to that also, and a minister. But as a Congress MP, Sri C.M. Stephen, an eminent congressman. Yes, it might be useful to remember that also. I'll read the quote. It might be useful further. Sir C.M. Stephen, as a Congress MP at that time, says, during the debate of 42nd Amendment, which had so many implications. So it brings me the shivers to read this line, but I'm reading it because we should know how we speak. Quote, sir, I quote, "Now, the power of this parliament, through the 42nd Amendment that is declared to be out of bounds for any court."
Shame.
He says this. Now, the power of this parliament is declared to be out of bounds for any court. It is left to the courts whether they should defy it. He continues, "I do not know whether they will have the temerity to do that. But if they do, that will be a bad day for the judiciary. The committee of the House is sitting with regard to the inquiry into the conduct of judges. We have got our methods, our machinery." Unquote. Sir, imagine if today one of our MPs would say, anywhere, would say this and say the temerity of the judges, the courts. But no, what we hear from Congress today, oh, you are undermining institutions, you have no respect to the Constitution, you that, you this. Look at this one statement, sir.